Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a great show for you today. I'm Amber Duke, back at the desk with Niall Stanage, the Dream Team.
Exactly. I always look forward to our Friday conversations. Great to have you here, Amber. And as always, we have a lot to talk about.
Yes, and I think our first segment is a lot of fun, so let's get right into it. Will the kids be all right? Well, there's been a shakeup at tech titan Elon Musk's Doge.
The Wall Street Journal released a report titled "Doge Staffer Resigns Over Racist Posts." The story reads, Marco Illes, a 25-year-old who is part of a cadre of Elon Musk lieutenants deployed by the Department of Government Efficiency to scrutinise federal spending, resigned after the Wall Street Journal asked the White House about his connection to the account. The Journal unearthed some tweets the outlet says are linked to Illes. The Journal says the now deleted account, called Null PTR, wrote tweets like this. Just for the record, I was racist before it was cool. You could not pay me to marry outside of my ethnicity. I would not mind at all if Gaza and Israel were both wiped off the face of the earth. Normalize Indian hate.
On a lighter note, another one of Musk's hench boys is making the rounds in the news cycle. The reason? His name. Well, his nickname. Wired ran a profile on him yesterday titled, "A young technologist known online as Big Balls, who works for Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, has access to sensitive U.S. government systems. But his professional and online history call into question whether he would pass the background check typically required to obtain security clearances," security experts tell Wired.
Yes, he goes by Big Balls. The experts Wired cite say that Edward Korestein, that is, aka Big Balls, could have trouble getting a security clearance due to his past, albeit brief, employment with Path Network.
Wired reports that Path Network has hired a convicted cybercriminal and another hacker known as Cosmo the God, who is a member of a hacking group called UG Nazis. Wired says there's no evidence Korestein crossed paths with them during his employment. According to Wired, some domains Korestein controls through his tesla.sexy.llc are registered in Russia, and that another domain had content in Chinese. Experts say this could also make it harder for Korestein to get a clearance.
Here's a CNN clip last night that's making the rounds.
So this is a 19-year-old high school graduate who has used the unfortunate nickname Big Balls online, so that would be one way that we could refer to him. He is now working at Musk's behest inside Doge.
Newsmax host Todd Starnes wrote on X, "The television network that employed Jeffrey Toobin is offended that Elon Musk employs a 19-year-old who goes by the name Big Balls." Musk himself chimed in, writing, "Personally, I voted for Big Balls."
In response to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy's tweet about Doge helping with the aviation system, Vice Chair of the DNC, newly elected, David Hogg, wrote, "Yeah, let's let a 19-year-old who goes by Big Balls handle the situation." Very confidence-inspiring. Well, we got through the script at least without completely falling around with laughter, just occasional giggling. Well, I think that it's pretty... The Big Balls thing, I think, is indicative of this idea that there are very untested, unvetted people who now are in positions of genuine influence, particularly relating to having access to Treasury systems. I do think it's kind of tricky discussing these two cases side by side, because ultimately whether a 19-year-old goes by a lurid nickname or not is a very different thing from the blatantly racist posts that are appearing on the account linked to, or however we're defining it, this guy who has now resigned and who the tweets have been deleted and he won't comment on what that was all about. I don't think racists should be, it's an appalling thing. There are appalling things that he appears to have tweeted, allegedly tweeted, and that's a problem.
Yeah, he resigned, so that's that, I guess, on his tenure at Doge. I think that there's been a lot of unnecessary fear-mongering from the media about Doge's access to the Treasury system. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirmed 3 days ago that they only have read-only access, so they're not in there changing lines of code or deleting programs or things of that nature. And so when the federal judge came out yesterday and limited them specifically to read-only mode, I was like, okay, well, that's already what they only had, according to the Treasury Secretary. And then there was a lot of reporting about Elon Musk having access to people's social security numbers and other private financial information, which I found a little bit funny because there are already hundreds, if not thousands, of unelected bureaucrats who have access to social security numbers through IRS, Treasury, Department of Education, Social Security Administration, and all of those platforms have been hacked at one point or another and been the subject of pretty massive government data breaches. So for people to claim that they suddenly care about your private information being accessed by unelected officials when they never said it in the past suggests to me that this is a type of political weaponization because they're not happy about what Doge is doing.
So I don't really agree with that interpretation, as you might expect, for a couple of reasons. One is it's not only the matter of being unelected, it's also the issue of security clearances and who has access to these things. The second point is it is to do with, in this case, political appointees, which I think is a different question from career civil servants. And on the read-only matter, I don't find that as reassuring as you appear to do. I take the point that if they have read-only access only, and there has been mixed reporting about that, it prevents them from changing code, but it is still having the capacity to read the information itself. The Treasury payment systems are responsible for around $1 or $2 trillion of payments every year. They at least potentially appear to have access to people's bank account numbers, to their tax returns and things like that. I am not reassured by Elon Musk or Big Balls or this racist tweeting guy having access to those kind of details.
I guess my pushback would be that Scott Bessent, for example, is also a political appointee, right? He's unelected as well. He presumably has access to all of this information, and there's been multiple reports that all of these individuals did get security clearances and pass background checks. I mean, first with Katie...
Well, there's a difference. A temporary security clearance, though, is by its nature a laxer thing than the vetting process that is normally undergone for a more serious security clearance.
I mean, maybe, but according to CNN, a source told them that Musk himself has a top secret security clearance, which makes sense. The guy's been working on government contracts related to space travel, so I don't find that all surprising. And then the New York Times reported that everyone who has access to Treasury payment systems as part of Musk's team also passed background checks and obtained the proper security clearances. And Katie Miller, who's the spokesperson for Doge, also confirmed publicly on the record that everyone has access to a security clearance. But the background
checks themselves are, that was the whole issue in previous nominees from the Trump administration, including Pete Hegseth. The background check was commissioned by the incoming Trump administration, who defined the parameters of it, which is what Democrats objected to in Hegseth's nomination. So the idea that Katie Miller, of all people, says that someone has undergone a background check, again, I'm not reassured.
But it's not just the background check, but she says they also have all the proper security clearances, which are commissioned by the government, not by Trump.
Right, but they're done by the FBI, no?
Right.
Right. So in Hegseth's case, the argument was the administration had instructed the FBI what to look into and what not to look into. So when his ex-wife wished to contact them again, she was never
right. But background checks and security clearances are two separate processes, right? And she's saying that they did both. And the parameters of a security clearance don't change based on who is requesting it.
Well, to get back to the more flippant element of this, what do you think? Are you fine with Big Balls and his friends having this access?
Yeah, I don't have. I would never begrudge anyone having a sense of humor.
Fair enough. Well, there we go. On that.
Buyout offers to federal workers on pause. What comes next? Well, we'll try to break that down for you next here on Rising.